Today we're going to continue looking at how to solve real-world problems using systems of equations. So let's look at our first problem. Farah has a jar of quarters and nickels, and there are 60 coins in the jar. So if I stop right there, I know that she has quarters and nickels, and the total of those is going to equal 60. So I'm looking for how many quarters she has, and I'm looking for how many nickels she has. I'm going to use the variable Q to represent quarters and the variable N to represent nickels. And I know that when we add however many quarters she has to how many nickels she has, we get a total of 60 coins. Then it says, if the value of the coins is $9.60, how many of each coin is in the jar? Well, I need to think about what I know about quarters. Quarters are 25 cents. So the value of a quarter is 25 cents, and I know that if I take 25 cents and multiply by however many quarters I have, and then add that to the value of a nickel, which is 5 cents, so 5 cents times however many nickels I have, I'm going to get a total of $9.60. So this is the system of equations that I'm going to use to solve this problem. Now, I need to figure out which method would be best, and by looking at this, I notice that in my first equation, I have coefficients of 1, which means it would be easy to get one of these variables by itself, so I could use the substitution method. So if I take my first equation, which says Q plus N equals 60, and I try to get it so that I have one of the variables by itself, I'm just going to choose to get Q by itself. To get Q by itself, I'm going to have to get rid of N, so I would subtract N from both sides. These would cancel and leave me with Q equals 60 minus N, or you could write negative N plus 60. Because I'm using the substitution method, now that I know what Q is equal to 60 minus N, I'm going to plug that in for Q in the other equation. So the other equation says 0.25Q plus 0.05N equals $9.60. Instead of Q, I'm going to use 60 minus N. So 0.25 times 60 minus N, and then I'll write the rest of the equation plus 0.05N equals 960. I need to distribute my 0.25 to everything in this parentheses. So 0.25 times 60 gives me 15. 0.25 times negative 1N gives me negative 0.25N. And then I write the rest of the equation. So plus 0.05N equals 960. Now I need to combine my like terms on this side of my equation. 15 doesn't have a like term, so I'm going to rewrite it. And then if I do negative 0.25N plus positive 0.05N, I get negative 0.2N, or minus 0.2N. And again, all of this is still equal to 960. Now I'm just going to solve this the same way that I solve any problem. So I need to get N by itself. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. When I do that, these are going to cancel, and I need to be careful because I'm not left with 0.2N, but I'm actually left with negative 0.2N. And then if I do 960 minus 15, I get negative 5.4. Now to get N by itself, I need to get rid of negative 0.2, so I'm going to divide by negative 0.2 on both sides. These will cancel and leave me with N equals, and when I do negative 5.4 divided by negative 0.2, I get positive 27. That means that my number of nickels is 27 nickels. Now I need to use that to figure out how many quarters I have. So if I go back to the equation that I wrote at the beginning, I said that quarters are equal to 60 minus N, or 60 minus nickels. Now that I know that there are 27 nickels, I can say 60 minus 27, and that means my number of quarters is 33. So to answer my question, there are 33 quarters and 27 nickels in the jar. Let's look at this problem. Priya is selling cupcakes for the bake sale. This week, she has sold 5 more than twice the number of cupcakes she sold last week. If Priya has sold a total of 107 cupcakes, how many did she sell each week? So the question is asking me for how many did she sell each week. So we're looking for this week, and we're looking for last week. So for this week, I'm going to use the variable t. For last week, I'm going to use the variable L. And we're going to use those to write our equations. So let's look at what we know. It says this week, she has sold 5 more than twice the number of cupcakes she sold last week. That means that this week, the number that she sold is equal to 5 more than. When I see 5 more than, I know that that's 5 plus. And then it's 5 more than twice what she sold last week. To show twice what she sold last week, that's 2 times however many she sold last week. Since I don't know what she sold last week, I'm going to have to use my variable L here. Then in my next sentence, it says Priya has sold a total of 107 cupcakes. So that means that when I take what she sold this week and add it to what she sold last week, we get a total of 107 cupcakes. So this is the system of equations that I'm going to use to solve this problem. Now, when I look at them and I'm trying to figure out which method would be best, if I notice in my first equation, I already have the variable t by itself, which means I can take 5 plus 2L and substitute it in for t in my second equation. So my second equation says t plus L equals 107. But according to my first equation, t is actually 5 plus 2L. So instead of t, I'm going to write 5 plus 2L. And then I'm going to rewrite the rest of the equation, which is plus L equals 107. Now, I don't have anything to distribute over here, but I do have like terms that can be simplified. So I'm going to do 2L plus 1L, which gives me 3L. 5 didn't have a like term, so I'm rewriting it. 2L plus L gives me 3L. And all of this is equal to 107. Now to get L by itself, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. These are going to cancel and leave me with 3L equals, and on this side I have 107 minus 5, which gives me 102. Now to get L by itself, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. These cancel and leave me with L equals, and 102 divided by 3 is 34. So that means that last week, Priya sold 34 cupcakes. Now I'm going to use that to figure out how many cupcakes she sold this week. I'm going to use my first equation, which is this week, t, equals 5 plus 2 times last week. Well, now I know that last week she sold 34, so it's going to be 5 plus 2 times 34. I'm going to multiply 2 times 34, which gives me 68. So now it's 5 plus 68. And when I do 5 plus 68, I get 73. So this week, she sold 73 cupcakes, and last week she sold 34 cupcakes. For this problem, it says the width of a rectangle is equal to triple its length. If the perimeter of the rectangle is 66 feet, what is the length and the width of the rectangle? So the question wants us to find the width and the length. So for width, I'm going to use W. For length, I'm going to use L. And the first sentence tells me the width is equal to triple the length. So that means width is equal to triple, which means multiplying by 3, so 3 times the length. And since I don't know the length, I'm going to use L. Then it tells me that the perimeter of the rectangle is 66 feet. Well, if I write P equals 66, that doesn't help me because I need an equation that has W and L in it. But if I think about what I know about the perimeter of a rectangle, if this is the width and this is the width, and this is the length and this is the length, if I were finding the perimeter, I would add all of these together. So I would do length plus width plus length plus width. And if I simplified that, I would have 2 L's And then I would have two W's. So two L's plus two W's gives me the perimeter of a rectangle. In this case, I know that the perimeter of the rectangle is 66. So the equation that I would write to represent this would be 2L plus 2W equals 66. So that is going to be the second equation in my system. 2L plus 2W equals 66. And this is the system that we are going to solve. Now, when I look at this system, I notice that my first equation already has W by itself. So I'm going to use substitution, and I'm going to take 3L and substitute it in for W in the second equation. The second equation says 2L plus 2W equals 66. I'm going to substitute 3L in for W, so this is 2L plus 2 times W, or 2 times 3L, equals 66. Now, 2 times 3L gives me 6L. So now I have 2L plus 6L equals 66. I need to combine my like terms. 2L plus 6L gives me 8L equals 66. Now to get L by itself, I'm going to have to divide by 8 on both sides. So when I divide by 8 on both sides, these are going to cancel and leave me with L equals 66 divided by 8 gives me 8.25. So that means that the length of this rectangle is 8.25 feet. Now I'm going to use that to find the width. I know from the first equation that width is equal to 3 times the length, and we now know that the length is 8.25. So the width is 3 times 8.25. And when I do 3 times 8.25, I get 24.75. So that means that the width of the rectangle is 24.75 feet. All right, for our last problem, at a restaurant, the cost of 2 burgers and 3 fries is $16.45. The cost of 4 burgers and 1 fry is $21.65. What is the cost of 1 burger and 1 fry at the restaurant? So we're looking for the cost of a burger, which I'm going to use B for, and we're looking for the cost of a fry, so I'll use F. Now let's look at what we know. 2 burgers and 3 fries cost $16.45. So if I do 2 times the cost of a burger plus 3 times the cost of a fry, I get $16.45. Then 1 fry and 4 burgers is $21.65. So 4 times the burgers plus 1 fry, which is F, gives me $21.65. So this is the system of equations that I'm going to use to solve my problem. If I notice, it looks like substitution is going to be the easiest one for this one as well, because I have an F here that has a coefficient of 1. So I'm going to take this second equation and I'm going to get F by itself. So to get F by itself, I'm going to get rid of 4B, and I'm going to do that by subtracting 4B from both sides. These are going to cancel and leave me with F equals 2165 minus 4B, or negative 4B plus 2165. Now that I know what F equals, I'm going to take this and plug it in. So 2165 minus 4B, I'm going to plug it in for F in the first equation, since that's the equation I didn't use. So that first equation says 2B plus 3F equals 1645. Instead of F, I'm using 2165 minus 4B. So this is going to be 2B plus 3 times 2165 minus 4B. And all of this equals 1645. So I'm going to rewrite 2B, and then I need to distribute my 3. When I do 3 times 2165, I get 6495. And then when I do 3 times negative 4B, I get negative 12B. And all of this equals 1645. Now I need to combine my like terms over here, so I have 2B minus 12B, which gives me negative 10B, and I still have plus 6495 that didn't have a like term. And all of this is still equal to 1645. Now I need to get B by itself, so I need to get rid of the $64.95. So I'm going to subtract $64.95 from both sides. When I do that, these will cancel, and I'm left with negative 10B equals, and when I do 1645 minus 64.95, I get negative 48.5. Now to get B by itself, I need to divide by negative 10 on both sides. These are going to cancel and leave me with B equals, and when I do negative 48.5 divided by negative 10, I get 4.85. That means that the cost of one burger is $4.85. Now that I know that, I can plug that into the equation that I made, which was F equals 2165 minus 4B. So I'm going to plug in 485 for the cost of a burger. So I'll do 2165 minus 4 times 485. So when I do 4 times 485, I get $19.40. So this is 2165 minus $19.40. So I'm going to do 2165 now minus $19.40, and I get $2.25. So the cost of one fry is $2.25.